In today's video, we're going to be breaking down the brand new exotic class items in Destiny 2, discussing the top 3 for hunter mains out there to chase within the new dual Destiny exotic mission. And today we're actually joined by ATP, or All the Players, as many of you guys may know him, who is known as a perennial hunter main, one of the best in the world. He not only has done solo flawless Root of Nightmares on Hunter, he recently just placed top 3 in the Salvation's Edge World's First raid race, the most grueling raid race we've ever had. He's soloed every Grandmaster Nightfall on Hunter, so pretty much any challenge you guys can think of, he's done it. So I wanted to bring him on to discuss all the different perk combinations and figure out what you guys should be chasing to narrow down the madness that is the 64 possible drop options from the dual Destiny for your exotic class items. ATP, thanks for joining me, dude.
Yo, thanks for having me.
How have you found the grind so far?
Thanks to the double drops, it's not that bad. But I'll tell you, if it was single drops, I would be going crazy right now.
I literally wasn't able to record the video I initially had planned for YouTube, which was showcasing gameplay for each of these. Just like many of you out there, I haven't been able to get the roles that I've been looking for. So we're just going to be talking about kind of the numbers behind everything today, kind of synergies, perks that may be underrated, overrated, and our top 3 combos each. Have you gotten any of the roles you're looking for yet?
Not any of the top 3 that I'm looking for. I've gotten a few close ones, but nothing perfect just yet.
So I think to start things off, we're going to just narrow down a couple perks that we can just nix from the list right away, things that you're not looking for. Are there any that immediately jump out to you and you're like, if I get that to drop, I'm just disappointed?
There are 3, I would say, that if I get them, I would immediately delete. And those are Spirit of the Ophidian.
Okay.
I don't really care. I don't play PvP. Renewal Grasps, that's another one that I just don't care.
Really?
I don't like Duskfield nades in the first place.
Okay.
And I'm like, if I'm using them, I feel like I'm just going to use the actual exotic. And then the other one is Foe Tracer, is another one that I just don't care about. Because the surges, like X4, it's only 3% more, and I can just run them on my boots anyway.
I think the other that stands out to me that I just would instantly not be excited about is Spirit of the Dragon. Weapon handling and reload, like you can spec into reload relatively easily. That's never really an issue. Handling, I don't know, like that doesn't do it for me. I'm not like you, I'm not a PvP player. Foe Tracer, I completely agree on. I think some people are kind of coping on the damage combo of like a Foe Tracer Star Eater build. I mean, let's be real, like if you're running a damage class right now on Hunter, you're gonna run an exotic called Nighthawk and you're gonna be running Still Hunt, and I know that's boring, but like you also just don't even need those 2 at all to do the crazy 1-2 punch stuff that's happening with Hunter right now that a lot of people got familiar with on Banner of War, and we'll get more into that later. What are 3 that you would get rid of from column 2 as well?
Wormhusk. I think Wormhusk is kind of useless. I use Combination Blow a lot, so I'm actually going to get rid of Synthoceps, which is probably a controversial or hot take. And then the other one that I'm going to get rid of is Spirit of the Coyote. The extra class ability, like, eh.
And that's coming from an Invis Hunter, by the way, YouTube.
Yeah.
So, Verity, to me, is one that stands out. I find would be very niche on Hunter. The grenade choices are just not the best on Hunter. Verity, Wormhusk, Coyote, I would agree with 100%. Synthos surprised me a little bit. Do you mind diving into why you think Synthos is overrated?
Typically, if I'm playing Prismatic Hunter, I'm using Combination Blow, and Synthos heavily reduces the damage of Combination Blow. So it goes from 165% to 30%. And the other melee or melees that I'm using on Hunter right now would either be the Strand one, which I'm probably not going to be surrounded by people if I'm using it, and I'm mainly using that to sever. And Withering Blade, I just don't feel like it really has a good synergy with Synthos. I'm throwing it from a range. I'm not going to be throwing it on enemies on top of me.
Yep. And with Combo Blow, you're probably running the Spirit of the Liar. So
yeah,
that makes total sense. Okay. I want to hear from you what your top 3 exotic perk combinations are, and then for the people at home, we'll just go through and kind of dive into why each one of those is so strong.
Okay, so my number 1 is Spirit of Caliban, and then Spirit of Liars. Number 2 is Spirit of Inmost Light, and then Spirit of the Sirdarachne. And then the third one is kind of on a different train. This one's for Void, is Spirit of Galanor, and then Spirit of the Gerfalcon.
Okay, interesting. Let's start with what I think is probably the most obvious one for hunters right now. It's gained a lot of steam. Spirit of the Caliban. This comes from the solar-related exotic, and this one specifically talks about powered melee kills, triggering, and ignition. Obviously, a core part of the hunter's kit with Prismatic is combination blow and being able to cycle not only your dodge with your charge melee and just being able to have that cooldown up all the time, but not only are you able to, you know, build damage stacks on melee and do significant damage, now Caliban's blowing up entire groups of ads. Do you use Caliban with combo blow?
Yes, I do.
Do you see any, like, do you have any concerns kind of with how, like, Assassin's Cowl on Arced work, where, like, sometimes Jolt would just kill an entire group of ads and then it was, like, I guess hard to build your ×3 combo blow stacks, or do you not really find that to be an issue?
I find it less of an issue on this one, because usually when you melee an ad, it kind of pushes them away and causes the ignition a bit away.
Okay.
Either way, I'd eventually lose the X3, or like I'd end up killing those enemies with X3 anyway, and I'm still having to move to a new group of enemies, so I'm probably gonna have to get X3 back. So I don't find it as big of an issue.
I guess it's just speeding up what you would be doing anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so I mean, I think that synergy is pretty obvious. For the viewers at home, one of the things that we're using today to reference all of this information, number one, the graphic is provided by Destiny Bulletin, so shout out to them for the image you guys are seeing on screen. Really nice, clean for everybody to look at home. And then second, we're using a spreadsheet called the Destiny Data Compendium, which is something I use for a lot of YouTube videos. It's stuff we've used for day one prep. I'm sure ATP, you've done the same. Very reliable source. There are some well-respected names in the community that spend a ton of time researching every single exotic, every interaction, every perk combination. They have all this information out there for free for people to access. I'll have it linked down in the description of this video. Just genuinely an incredible resource, so shout out to the team who puts all of this info together. We're gonna actually be using that. That's where we're getting these values from, so we're not just like pulling these out of thin air, but we're also going to be discussing a lot of the prismatic, I guess, fragments that we're using as well, and kind of how they would synergize with some of what these different combos are doing. So with Caliban, Liar's Handshake, so a lot of people are using Winter Shroud and Stylish Executioner, and with Winter Shroud, one of the things that I've been doing, and I'm sure others have as well, is when you dodge multiple times in a single group, you freeze a target, and it only takes 2 dodges to actually fully freeze an enemy. One thing I wanted to bring up as like a potential, I guess, substitute for Caliban, if you wanted to pick something else in column 1, is Facet of Ruin, where shattering enemies or destroying crystals deals an additional damage instance, dealing up to 25 damage in a 10-meter radius. And so it basically just increases the shatter damage radius, is essentially what I've noticed. Is it kills anything within like 5 to 10 meters, which feels like it's relatively similar to Caliban, but I guess Caliban then frees you up to run more neutral game specific fragments that you could build more ability uptime with, and things of that nature, or to just empower your punches even more. I don't know, what would you use with Caliban and Liars if you were to pick a few? Like, what's at least 1 or 2 fragments that stand out to you?
So I use heavy-handed on my gauntlets to make orbs. So Facet of Purpose is a pretty big one, because that would then give you either Restoration, Woven Mail, Frost Armor, depending on your super. That's a big one. I also like Dawn, Facet of Dawn, so that one makes me Radiant on melee kills.
Yep.
And the other one that I like quite a lot is Facet of Courage. So that's your Arc, Solar, and Void abilities deal increased damage to targets afflicted with a Darkness debuff. So that's just an additional 10% to, for me, Combination Blow. If I'm punching an enemy that's like I just dodge next to, they're slowed, free damage.
So insane. I guess one fragment to me that also stands out a lot in terms of grenade uptime specifically is Facet of Balance, where killing enemies with light damage grants 10% melee energy, killing enemies with dark damage grants grenade energy. And that synergy of you dodging, freezing, and then arc punching, like, you're just trading that stuff out constantly. So honestly, it's kind of hard to choose because they like obviously you have protection, which is super strong for just DR when surrounded by enemies. It's an additional 15% damage resist. Ruin, as I mentioned earlier, synergizes really well with shatter damage if you're running Winter Shroud. It's such good neutral game. It's pretty wild. So your second combo you said was Heart of Inmost Light and Surturachne. Can you elaborate why that combo specifically?
This one, it's a very niche one. Most of the content you don't need permanent woven mail uptime. Part of Inmost Light makes it so when you use your abilities, it empowers the other abilities, giving them increased regeneration rate. Yep. So if you use your melee or your dodge, you empower your grenade and make it recharge quicker. And then Spirit of Surturachne gives you woven mail, which is 35% DR right now when you use your grenade. So if you have the loop going, you just have permanent woven mail the entire time.
So to me, that shouts much more of like a GM build, or if you're going into like a master raid setting, this seems like something that would have just like ridiculous sustain and survivability, and you know, maybe rely a bit more on your weapons for ad clear, but I mean, dude, you could do some crazy stuff with that for sure. So actually, your first two picks are the same as mine. And then you said your third one was a Galanor and Gerfalcon.
That is correct.
That's a really good one as well. Galanor, for those who aren't super familiar, gives you regen on your super when you hit enemy targets, and it's specifically very good with tether on Prismatic. I've noticed it's not as great on things like Golden Gun. With tether, if I tether a major and maybe a couple surrounding ads, like it can be up to 50%, which is literally just Orpheus rigs, and then you also just get Gerfalcon with that, which is insane. Like that's a crazy neutral game build just all around.
Yeah, any ad dense things like non-boss fights and raids, onslaught as you said, some GMs even, like we have Psyops Cosmodrome back this episode. Yep. And that has a lot of ads.
Gosh, you're making me kind of want to change my pick. I'm gonna stick to my guns. So the only reason I say I have this one, it is relatively niche, but it's like so insane that I think it's worth mentioning. Is I think you can either go like Hoyle Syntho, or you can go Galanor Syntho, which I actually think is what I'm going to lean towards, is Galanor Synthoceps. And this is specifically for the grapple melee tech I'm sure you've seen circulating around like YouTube and Twitter and stuff, where essentially hunters are able to do the 1-2 punch grapple melee that Banner of War Titans were doing last season that actually got nerfed, and now it seems like hunters all of a sudden like have it, but it's like even more ridiculous. Have you seen the footage of this stuff?
I saw a crazy Caretaker clip where they did so much damage to him with it.
Or a hidden perk with Stylish Executioner where when you come out of invis, I think it gives a stackable 200% damage increase when you melee a target coming out of invisibility. The actual Synthoceps portion is not then penalized like it is with Combination Blow, where it gets reduced to 30%. Apparently with grapple melee 1-2 punch stuff, as long as you're surrounded by ads and you don't have Combo Blow active, it still counts for that 165%. And so when you combo that with the 200% coming out of invis, plus, you know, being surrounded by enemies, plus 1-2 punch, plus, you know, the grapple melee doing a lot of damage on its own, for people wanting to farm like Warlord's Ruin or like any Caretaker, like any close range boss in raids or dungeons, like I'm thinking First Encounter Prophecy, like there's so much potential for you to go in there and just like solo the boss in literally seconds. It's crazy. And I guess the combo with that specifically, again, similar to what you said, is Galanor, I think, one of the most underrated perks in column 1. A lot of people are going for like Assassin for the invisibility, Caliban obviously for the explosions, but I think Galanor legitimately is like one of the biggest sleeper perks in column 1, especially when you're using Tether. Tether is such a strong super in general, and with that specifically, like getting 50% back just having Orpheus rigs like to combo with something else is so crazy. So it's like not only good for neutral game, is kind of why I picked this combo.
Like I've seen the Synthoceps grapple melee thing. Unless I'm going for a dungeon speedrun or a raid solo boss, completion. Like
Yeah.
for 99% of gameplay, I'm like, I don't think I need this.
That's honestly
So-
valid. That is
But
valid.
it's definitely extremely strong. So it's probably
Yeah.
number 4 for me.
I think though this is a really interesting discussion, because even as a content creator, like I've been going through this process a little lost, and it's always good to hear someone else's perspective and kind of just narrow down like what I should be looking for. I think that's it for the hunter stuff. We're going to be having G miners join us for the warlock edition of this, the well skating king himself, so we will have that up later this week as well. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check out ATP's channel. We'll have all of his links down in the description below. Genuinely, you're just an insanely nice guy. He literally agreed to do this like same day, by the way, so shout out, thank you so much for joining. But also just like such a talented player and one of the smartest people, like literally helped solve Verity for the community on day one. Yeah, I just have a lot of respect for your gameplay and mind for the game. So thanks for joining, dude. I appreciate it a lot.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, with that said, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed it, smash the thumbs up and drop a subscription over on ATP's channel and this one if you guys enjoyed the content. And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.